position that pressure down towards the dragon, down towards the bot lane. It's a very simple game plan, but sometimes simple is best, and when EDG are able to execute so well on it, it becomes very difficult, especially for teams like JDG, who have shown that their early game and certainly kind of getting caught out in a lot of scenarios, they're going to have their work cut out for them against EDG.
They really are on the blue side starting off here as well. Already some priority bans coming through, especially that Renekton here in the LPL has one of the highest priorities. I wonder if you take away something like the set here, Dagda. We've got other big power picks open, but no. Ezreal, Set, Rumble still there as priorities for this first pick.
Gwen as well. Gwen has been big for both Zuma and Flandre, so I'm curious to see how that one goes. One of the things as well, Nocturne has been banned like in 85% of the games against JDG. So we haven't actually seen them play it before, but it's been something that's must be going on behind the scenes. So I'm curious to see if we get that brought out for them now, which we do straight off the bat, but it will be the set first pick coming through from EDG and the Ezreal paired with this Nocturne for the side of JDG. So safe bot lane with the opportunity to start playing around this Nocturne and the Paranoias on the top side of the map.
Already a flex on each team, right? The set we know can go into either of those side lanes as well. Can go into Mako's hands as he's played it a lot before. But now that the Ezreal's gone, I mean, the Varus is still there. You know, Varus into Ezreal, really not that bad as we've seen the matchup before. Thresher, great support to align with it, so let's see if EDG just want to put power into Viper's hands.
Yeah, and still, I mean, you can go towards the Jinx, you can go towards the Aphelios here. Varus, as you were just talking about, like a lot here for EDG, they go towards the Aphelios as well. Like, still a lot of power picks open, right? We can still look towards things like the Lee Sin here for JDG. Again, flexibility in that draft. We've seen it a lot from Kanavi. We know that Zoom is capable of playing that as well. Haven't seen it from Yagao quite yet, but still more than capable, I'd assume, of being able to pick that one up. So, again, a heap of flexibility here on the EDG and JDG sides.
But I do like that JDG, while we already talked a little bit about EDG's comp, just kind of rounding it out with what's simple. They get a bit of darkness, they add a bit of moon on top of that, and that seems to be the natural order of things. So we get Diana over something like the Rumble, which is interesting enough, but EDG don't have a jungler, so I expect JDG to start banning some of those key ones away.
Yeah, and I think for EDG, it's banning things like the Lucian. I think as well, when you get that Diana, Lucian, pretty strongly jungle 2v2, but also Lucian just does very well into the set, so that opportunity to flex that set into the mid lane would be nullified a little bit if you end up with an AD mid laner, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lucian banned away, whereas as you talked about already, Rumble taken off the board, have to see what other junglers are going to follow. I know we've been seeing a little bit of Udyr still, the Xin Zhao is still up and available, which has started to rise more in prominence, and I expect that will be the next ban from JDG.
It's been played once by JJ. Of course, he didn't lose on it, but the Udyr is a bigger one that you brought up. 3 times already played through, but I also want to bring up that Volibear's another pick that we've seen rising here in the LPL. Over in the LEC, it's been huge, and JDG have to ban that one away. So good thought process here, but it does mean the Udyr will likely be the choice for JJ when we get around to junglers. Dagda, on the other hand, no support here for Lumao. We know he can pull things out like the Bard. We know Karma's also banned as well, so I'm wondering how they're going to pair up this bottom lane of JDG.
Yeah, I think we'll end up going towards something like a Leona or something along these lines, just something that can provide that big engage tool, because I think we'll probably get the Lucian coming into the mid lane for Yagao. I think Lucian just does very well in that mid lane. Not too many matchups that can go against them. Works well with the AP jungler too. And when you've got a composition that has like deep dive coming through from the Nocturne, you've also got this Leona now to pair up well with it. I think something like a Lucian to fire that Colleen across the back line as well could work out super well.
I'll bring us back to pick ban in a second. Did you see that poster? Those 2 posters that fan drew? That was insane. That was like a piece of art. Props to whoever that fan is, if someone wants to send that message across if they can. We do have a fun draft, though, to return to. That's a LeBlanc for Scout, which is most likely going to be the blind pick, and JDG are going to try and counterpick. Remember that Yagao has been playing really strongly in these early laning phases, got there in the end, and he's been having a pretty good split, so curious as to what he takes in to try and knock Scout down.
I think the Silas has come out as a pretty decent matchup into the LeBlanc, right? Because when she tries to distort in, you're able to use your own chains to jump in, you trade using your passive, and then if she ever tries to jump back to where her distortion was, you can trade, but we're actually not going to get our hands on that. Yagao going to go back towards the Azir, so trying to say, hey, look, you know what? We actually don't want to jump in on top of this Aphelios. We want to try and play at range. We got the Ezreal there. We've got the Azir. And especially if we can try and, like, push back JJ, stop Flandre after his engage, that's how we can find a bit more of an opportunity to take these fights and force back EDG.
Well, your Gals Azir has mixed feelings amongst the community. I know one fan in particular who he messaged me, you know, when he talked about your Gals Azir, and he didn't like it one bit. But a lot of people remember the pentakill coming through, that this was one of his best champions, and again, at least through the laning phase. So I will talk about comps in a little bit, Dagda. I think there's one important thing to note, and that is JDG have a lot of elements on their team. We have sand, we have moon, sun, and darkness. Is darkness an element? I'm not sure, but there's a lot of environmental effects for JDG.
Kingdom Hearts had it as an element. We can have it as an element. You know,
Okay.
It's totally fine. It works out grand. But
It's a poker.
yeah,
it's in Pokemon.
True.
What are we gonna say?
I mean, there's a lot of different things. Yeah, you can just run with it. But I think for JDG here, whatever about the elements that they have, they need to bring those elements together a little bit better. Because I know when I actually looked at their stats are pretty all right. But like when you actually look at them in game, they're constantly getting caught out in different positions. We saw that specifically against OMG, where they would just wander through. Oh, sorry, not OMG, sorry, V5, where they'd end up just walking through, especially in game number 1. These weird scenarios make the game 10 times harder than it needed to be. The early to mid just doesn't really seem to come across well. And yes, they can bring it back in some of the later fights, especially, you know, Zoom, who can be the super strong engage tool. We've seen Luma, who can have these phenomenal engages as well. But it just feels the whole package is a hell of a lot more lackluster than we've seen, say, in like 2020, both spring and summer.
Yeah, it's disappointing because with the same good players there, we know their capabilities. I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, when Kanavi and Zoom fail, the rest of the team falls apart. You and I were talking about this, and Zoom has been a target for a lot of these teams running into JDG. Again, great artwork by the fans. That's super cute. I actually saw a drawing of Mako at the end of Pick Band as well, Dagda, so fans really coming out here today. Just side note, we are back in Shanghai. EDG, JDG are both Shanghai teams now. JDG no longer has an arena in Beijing, or they're not going to their arena in Beijing. Those are one of the acceptable answers at this point. But as we wait to get into game number 1, I'm glad we can catch this one live because JDG EDG has the potential to be, you know, a capital B, you know, ending with anger. But it's just all about JDG, isn't it? EDG the clean team, JDG the ones who have to rise to expectations.
Yeah, and I think this is a real test for JDG. And like, the reason we're saying, hey, look, we're kind of, yes, they're sitting in 5th, right? But they are 3-2. They have managed to push a lot of their losses to that 3rd game, but it's been against teams like LGD, who've been a little bit messy, V5 being able to take a game off them and even push them kind of in game number 2 as well, like in those early stages. So even TT to a certain extent in their game 2 looked relatively good against them at the start of the split. So I think it just hasn't been as convincing as we would expect from a top team. And going up against EDG here today, they need to make sure that they have that control. And a lot of that is going to be looking towards Yagao, certainly looking towards Kanavi as well, to see how they fare against the game plan from EDG, which is get Scout ahead and have Scout and JJ control the map.
Yeah, because if JJ's able to control like he's been doing, I mean, JJ looks like an unstoppable jungler. I think watching him with Scout has been a real treat. I remember when JJ came into the league, by the way, and he flashed blind over a red side wall. That was his first ever game of LPL. He was on the Olaf, and I thought, dude, this guy, what a baller. He has since kind of lived up to the reputation that he has to fill in for. Everyone thought it was going to be Clear Love on this EDG roster, but it has been JJ, and I'm glad, because I think JJ is a jungler who has maintained a top 3, 4, 5 position in the jungle pool with his aggression mixed in with how he can play around Scout, how he sets the game up to be, I guess, so clean, as we know for EDG.
Yeah, and as well, like, it's not only just about those early stages, right? EDG's team fighting has been incredible. I think a lot of people remember that game 2 against Invictus Gaming. They're down nearly 10,000 gold at Baron Pit, and they managed to turn that fight around with some really strong performances from Scout and the Silas. We got that Gwen coming through from Flandre, and it feels like you never can count EDG out. And even when you look at their statistics, right? Their win rate when behind at 15 is 100%. Like they have won every game they've been behind at 15,
Okay.
and that's still like a third of their games where they actually have brought it back from the brink and been able to take the victory. So it really feels like for EDG, they are the best team in the LPL right now, especially with RNG having their slump, FPX looking particularly hit or miss, especially after yesterday's performance.
Yeah.
So EDG, they're the ones that a lot of people are kind of banking their hopes on for the LPL.
Gonna say, of course, there was a bit of a delay due to Kanavi and Lumao reporting that they couldn't switch champions. That's why we were slow to get onto the Rift. They remade Big Bang, but now here we are. EDG versus JDG, the final matchup of week number 3. LPL, this split only has 9 weeks, but 3 best of 3s of the weekends for most weekends. Is going to be an absolute doozy for all of you. Remember that we do start 2 hours early. Keep that in the back of your head. For EDG, Dagda, just a quick checkup for everyone out there. They are 5-0, but the biggest thing about EDG, unlike LNG, is that EDG have only dropped 1 individual game, and that was against BLG in week number 1. Apart from that, it's been 2-0 against IG, Rare Atom, Rogue Warriors, Zooning, JDG, another test for them. See if they really are, as you say, the best team in the league, because I'm very inclined to agree with you with how we talked about their clean League of Legends, but let's see it onto the Rift. Scout on the LeBlanc here, going up against Yagal Zazir. Already getting a bit of priority here with the Electrocute, but teleport into the mid lane.
Yeah, and this is a lane that Scout should have pretty strong control over. Now, you can get a lot of poke coming through from Yagao, but Scout will be looking to trade aggressively, try and utilize the fact that he's got that taste of blood, that gives you the Omni Vamp, alongside the Ravenous Hunter. I want to see JJ getting active as well early. One of the things that we've seen from these Dianas is they can have impact in the lanes in those early stages, like especially when they've got set up in those lanes, but bot lane, not really going to be an option for Kanavi. Top lane, maybe. Mid lane, not so much. So it really feels like JJ has his run of the mill in these early stages.
Which is why it's important for JDG to start tracking JJ and where he's going to hit first. I like this ward from Yagao. Onto the red buff, it's still there. They know that JJ is going to be pathing towards the bottom lane. And as he does his Raptors, Scout just punching back. This is what you want to see out of Scout. Again, he's had a pretty good split, and boy, in another lane, that's a huge wave. Lumao actually going to get punched here, and Lumao could actually die. Calibrum with the Severum. Range is absolutely there, and Loken and Lumao, yep, they're definitely in a lot of trouble.
And this isn't a new thing for Lumao. His laning phase has been really dire for JDG. A lot of the times it's been him who's getting caught out, giving kills across. Even on tanky champions like the Leona, you can see he's in a position where Mako just walks up, is able to get the hook, instead of just backing off like you could see from Loken. It's not like you're going to lose any CS. You don't need to step up to that wave. And it's been hurting JDG a little bit. Now JJ, he's on this bottom side, trying to see if he can spot out where his counterpart in Kanavi is.
Well, Kanavi's the top side, clearing the other Scuttle Crab. Scrying's not going to be seen. There is a ward towards that Tri-Brush in case Kanavi wants to dive early. But it kind of comes back to what you were talking about. Like, yeah, Kanavi can't hit that bottom lane. We know of Aphelios and Thresh, one of the strongest 2v2 lanes in the current meta. Unfortunately, Caitlyn Zarath is not in the meta. Otherwise, I'd be saying that that thing is oppressive as hell. But EDG do have those 2 winning lanes, especially towards mid, right? We know Azir can neutralize, but there is a lot of pressure, especially with Scout. Hit 6, gets the Electrocute proc, and if he can lock down Yagao.
And again, look at the mid lane. Scout has control over mid, has been able to push Yagao back, will be TPing in. So we get the reset coming through from Scout as well, but if you can get JJ and Scout to have control over this mid lane, we've seen what Scout can do, where he's able to start roaming around the map, especially down towards things like the bottom lane. And if Viper and Mako are able to get these advantages, you can certainly look to punch through that. But at least at the moment, with the ward coverage that JDG have been doing a really good job of getting, they've spotted out JJ pretty much at all points in time, and they're not giving EDG that opportunity to find these ganks, right? Zoom playing very safe in that top lane, Yagao's under his turret, Loken and Lumao are there as well, so EDG will more than likely start to stack and rack these dragons instead, and use that priority that they have in the lanes.
Which makes sense that for now, Kanavi's like, all right, well, I'll head to the top side, I should be fine. We know that he'll be pathing away from his own jungle and heading towards bot. You mentioned dragons before, it is a mountain start, but JDG also have a bit of vision control there. Well, Yagao and Scout just going to tussle out. JJ again pushing in. Dagda, we are getting to the point of 6 as well, and I think that's another important discussion when you talked about mid 2v2s being a potential, especially with LeBlanc, Xin Zhao. There's a lot of burst damage, a lot of CC, And at 6, it feels very easy to catch out Yagao if he doesn't have his flash, if he doesn't have his Emperor's Divide.
Yeah, I think though he does have a little bit of safety, right? As you said, like Emperor's Divide is still there. He still has his flash, and when you jump in as JJ and Scout, like you're kind of all the way in, right? So an Emperor's Divide shoves both them back and makes it very difficult for Yagao to actually get the kill on towards Yagao. And with the lane being positioned as it is, Yagao's been doing a pretty good job of keeping himself safe. So I don't really know if you're going to have much pressure there. This is why we're talking about, hey, look, JJ, just go towards Dragons. Like, in a situation where you've got late game scaling coming through from the Azir, you got Kanavi who's going to become a monster in the later portion of the game. Getting these early Dragons makes the game a lot easier. And it's the EDG game plan, right? Force teams to fight them at these Dragons so EDG can utilize the fact that the team's fighting is so damn strong.
Next one up in 4 minutes 50. I mean, that's an early Dragon considering we were just watching LNG versus IG and no one was touching the damn thing. So a nice change of pace running into this series. I want to go across the map just quickly and have a quick look at what we're seeing being built out. It is pretty standard builds across the board. Of course, with Azir, you know, we see the amplifying tome. We'll talk about it as he gets the Lost Chapter. LeBlanc as well, same deal. Darksteel there for Scout as he's running out of mana, but has Biscuits to rely on. But Dagda, more so at the CS, lead in the bottom lane, lead towards mid. Even the jungle there with this third spawning scuttle for JJ after the Dragon, giving him a bit of a lead. It's only really that top lane for JDG where the Nocturne has a 10 CS lead on Zoom.
Yeah, and Zoom has been doing a good job of punishing that matchup. It's super difficult for Flandre to try and trade effectively against the Nocturne, because what ends up happening is Nocturne goes in aggressive, he gets the Q. As you try to trade back, you've got that tether coming through, and the second you try and Haymaker, you just get the spell shield coming through from Zoom. So very easy for the Nocturne to trade aggressively. He's also got a bunch of healing in his own kit, so you can't really do much against this Nocturne. So Flandre on the back foot, but we'll have to see how Flandre can have that impact in the team fights later on versus just in the lane as himself.
I also want to see what Zoom hits first. He doesn't have the teleport available, but Paranoia is there. The one thing I don't like about top lane Nocturne versus mid lane is your ease of accessibility. You go into Fog of War as mid lane Nocturne, you can approach top, you can approach bot, you can look for more of these skirmishes. But if nothing's happening around the top side, Nocturne stays in the wave, he pushes out, he has to make more map movement, which is what Zoom's doing now, but JDG may have spotted him out with the defensive control ward. And JJ hitting Fog of War. Zoom's like, how did he get on that side? But Kanavi's there too. Paranoia now used, trying to build numbers advantage. Crescent Guard pop, but Kanavi's in, flashing away from the Moonfall. Good ulti from Flandre, the face breaker, but Kanavi gets behind him. Another great E. The Lunar Rush saves his life, and Yagao in the nick of time as JDG opened with a 2-0. The Scout over the wall, okay. Onto Kanavi, he's got it. But can he get away from Yagao? A lot of DPS here, even with the base item Azir. Scout's running away, red buff's doing a lot of work. And I will correct myself, Azir not going to do too much damage until he gets a soldier. And Scout just on the run. The chains will save his life this time around. EDG get one back, Dagda, but JDG made that play look sweet.
Yeah, JJ went a little bit too far forward, and JDG did a really good job of being able to punish the fact JJ didn't have support there. Even you can see Kanavi, that triumph, kind of saving his life there a little bit, as now EDG behind on the top side of the map could open up the opportunity for JDG to go towards this Rift Tower, but we'll see it here, right? JJ doesn't really have Flandre in a position. I love this showstopper from Flandre. Like, the second you get that Moonfall, they pull him back, try and force it away. Kanavi goes so low thanks to Haymaker. One auto, Triumph comes in, and just about able to keep him alive. And then we see Scout just trying to get something back desperately for his own team out of that play. And at least getting the LeBlanc ahead is nice for EDG, but 2 kills going the way of JDG, it's going to be great for them.
But Dagda, you know what that play was? Kanavi Lunar rushes, presses his E behind Flandre so he doesn't get hit with the Haymaker. He doesn't get hit with the true damage. He escapes it in the nick of time. And so he survives and almost lives to tell the tale, I should say. Scout ended up picking up a kill. But 2-0 here for the top lane now. JDG with a gold lead, or at least gold in line. I've just noticed that EDG still actually have, the partial gold lead by 200. Not much to speak of, but after losing 2 kills, it definitely rings on your mind. And Scout picking up the kill as well. He has a CS lead, Dagda. I think we have to look at this fight as partially balanced because EDG was still able to get something out of it.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here as well is like, okay, well, top side of the map was stronger for JDG, but the objective is now gone with that Rift Herald.
Yep.
Now, EDG go towards their strong portion of the map, the bottom half of the map for this Dragon that's in 30 seconds. JJ even going to use this Rift Herald to gain priority mid lane so they can pretty much guarantee themselves. So now, 2 Dragons going the way of EDG, and I think for JDG, they're kind of crossing their fingers for a Cloud Soul because they do not want to deal with an Ocean Soul on EDG's side.
Oh, they really don't. In 10 seconds, it spawns up and watch the play coming through. There's the Paranoia Zoom. Has already TP'd in. Caught out is Kanavi. Excuse me, it's JJ on the Xin Zhao. EDG have lost their jungler, and with it, most likely the Dragon.
Great pick from JDG. Zoom has just that small window of opportunity where his teleport is up first, and it means that he's able to get down to this bottom side. Paranoia pick up the jungler, and JDG can stop this Dragon stacking coming through from EDG. Flandre will trade some plates on the top side, and we'll kind of be happy with the fact he's getting some extra gold, but certainly for JDG, that's going to be a big sigh of relief.
I was going to say, you take that as JDG, absolutely. That's double plate here, so quite a lot of gold for Flandre to catch up to the Stride Breaker now on Zoom. He picked up that last kill as well, by the way, folks. So JDG, all those kills reside on the top laner. You have to look at what's going on in the bottom lane, though. Viper is about to 200 years this turret. It was already at 195, and we add another more 5 years just like that. Viper hits up first turret blood here. EDG will still have the gold lead. It'll move to about 1,000. And every time you look and say, well, JDG, that's a great play. They find the pick. They have their top lane Nocturne in a good position. You have 2 other carries who are kind of equaling it out.
Yeah, and look at the gold difference between the 280 carries, right? Might have to hold on, but it's like it's 1,200 gold lead for Viper. Like, this guy is massive right now. He has the almost the most gold in the game. The only person that's really ahead of him is going to be Zoom. So for Zoom, he's on assassination duty. He needs to kill Viper in these fights alongside Kanavi for EDG to have JDG to have any hopes of being able to shut down EDG, but that is not an easy task when you've got the Thresh there, when you've got the Crescent Guard that JJ can offer as well as the Showstopper. So certainly a lot of peel here for Viper, and for JDG, who have a lot of these champions that want to jump into the back line that enable the Aphelios. It can be tough.
Everyone has a tool to create space for Viper, don't they? I mean, Scout using chains, as simple as that. Or you mentioned the Crescent Guard, you mentioned Flandre's kit there as well. I love that you bring up the Thresh too. Thresh is always seen as that old-fashioned counter towards Leona. We know Zenith Blade goes in, Flay sends her packing, and it's another way to create great space. So it's going to be harder for JDG, Dagda, but I also want to point out, as we see the gank up in the top side, that it might rely on Zoom getting to the back line, who's now burnt his flash. Stride Breaker was used as well, and JDG's top laner caught out as EDG have rotated their bottom lane here, ready to get another turret with plating.
And this is why EDG have been so strong, right? They're really good at playing towards their strong side of the map. So you get that bot lane turret, cool. Rotate Viper up. Let's just keep playing around our strong portion of the map. And now that gold lead that we're talking about between the Zoom and the Viper matchup, closing just a little bit, but still Zoom in a really... Oh no,
Yagao, the turret shot! Oh, the minion!
Wait, the minion auto!
The particle hits in the end. I'm not sure what happened. We come to a weird fight as Lumao's targeted up. Audacious charge, not at the ready. And Yagao lucky to be alive. Dagda, I'm not sure what happened, but I saw ultis come out and Flandre almost takes him down.
Yeah, you can see JDG are trying so hard to play around the fact that Zoom has that paranoia and doesn't really have a lane that he can go towards because you had EDG putting that pressure topside, but they're not able to quite get any of it, especially with Yagao going so low on that bottom side. And again, EDG thwarting any pressure from JDG. Just, there you go, great Stride Breaker. Showstopper as well prevents the fact that the Emperor's Divide and managed to pick him up. A little bit funky, but still, you just about managed to force Yagao out. And now again, EDG, go. Top lane turret, Viper's hands. Bot lane turret, Viper's hands. Mid lane turret is the only thing left. And look at the amount of kind of terrain bypass that you can have for EDG to go towards this mid lane, right? You can get Scout who can pop over that wall from the top side. You also have Flandre who can do a lot in the flank towards that mid lane.
I'm kind of in hysterics here, no pun intended, because as we sit engaged, let's pause a second, box over the wall, Kanavi caught out. That's a 3-man paranoia, though, as they go on in. Crescent guard, great, but not enough damage at the moment. Mako gets the hook onto a key target. Kanavi now sent packing. There's Flandre as well, picking them apart by the pieces. Yagal's in the fight, though, and this Azir still has good DPS. A scout over the wall, looking to pick apart the pieces. JDG, 2 for 1, a loss in favor of EDG for that trade.
Yeah, Flandre's ult is just up as well, so they're looking for the re-engage.
Okay, well, we're going to see just a dead Zoom, and Scout walks away.
Not bad from Scout. He actually hid in the bush there for a little while, didn't take that lantern to rejoin with the team. Was like, no, I know I can make more of a play here. Manages to get the pick on towards Zoom, the shutdown gold going towards this LeBlanc. And now, with Scout on 2 kills, he's up and rolling himself. And for people like Loken, like Yagal, even Kanavi, that's a dangerous place to be in.
I'm going to say while I was laughing before, you know that set interaction we saw with the Azir wall? If you've ever seen that deja vu robot, Nani, look it up on YouTube. Let's have a look at the play again, because this actually looked really good for JDG.
Yeah, it did at the start, but again, this hook, Mako...
Oh! I missed that.
How?
That's
How?
insane.
I don't understand. He manages to
he
get
did
that.
Flash into
really
it. JDG were there, so, but that was still sick.
Yeah, but then Flandre here as well managed to pick up the double kill off the back of that. And this is here, Scout covering for so long in this bush. He was waiting for Zoom to go across and just gets the burst combo. Even though you get that spell shield, there's just too much damage there. Second chain comes out, good flash away from the Emperor's Divide. And EDG get the fight. They got the dragon in that replay as well, and potentially looking mid here for a little bit more.
Well, Dagda, 4 to 4, but it ain't even in gold on the top of your screen. 4,000 gold here for EDG just about. They picked up the dragon after the trade as well, and Scout is now on the hunt. And when a LeBlanc snowballs in League of Legends, this happens. Thank you for the leash. I'll see you next time.
Free blue buff going across to Scout, and yeah, Gao's kind of like, we've been mugged. It's the second time we've seen it today. It's been taken in broad daylight, and now JDG, they're angry. They want it back, and they want to get onto Scout.
They want to kill this LeBlanc who goes on through. Blue buff transfer. It is complete. Over to Zoom, unfortunately, though, who still only has the kills for JDG in this game 1.
Revenge is the best just desserts, and now, though, EDG moving in towards his mid lane. Shelly's there. They should get that tower, and maybe a little bit more as Kanavi going to be taken low.
Moonlight Vigil comes through from Viper, helps push away, and the turret mid dissolves. 3 turrets to 0. And part of the reason EDG have that 3,000 gold lead is Yagal walks into a hook. Box laid bare. Nice Emperor's Divide. The swoop and boop stack that calls it. The Looter Rush as well. The Solar Flare from Viper. Instant cleanse away, now kiting back. We talked about the space from EDG. They were able to create some to get away from there, but Mako pays the price, and Yagal plays the dice.
Still, though, this is one of the things we've seen from JDG, right? They do manage to get 1 kill back, which is nice, but there's no reason for Yagal to walk in there. You know EDG are in that bush, and he ends up giving his life. Support for mid laner, you take that trade as EDG, like you're pretty happy with that. So I don't understand why JDG have been doing this so much, where they just walk into random places and give their opponents time and advantage. Now, unfortunately for Scout, he goes that bit too far forward here, thinking he's got the distortion back to keep himself safe, but so many members of JDG around, which does give EDG the opportunity to take that mid lane turret.
Nice bit of gold that goes back onto Zoom. Flandre, he gets backed in front of. I love that Zoom pressed B after seeing Flandre as well for a little bit, so walks away, and both these top laners trying to get towards their second item for the upcoming fight, and that's going to be the dragon in 2 minutes 40. Dagda already pointed out how EDG stacking these up quite nice to, you know, against JDG, who they have an Azir, they have an Ezreal, right? There is going to be good late game damage there, good late game insurance, so feels like for EDG, continuing to control this game is a priority. And Dagda will have to keep track of items here, because Gale Force Renan's 2-item Azir. See if he can get towards his 3rd before we get this next fight, and see if Scout can get towards his 2nd, which he should. Looks like the Morellos for now, but we'll hold until that Oblivion Orb is upgraded.
Yeah, Viper is pretty big right now, though. The fact he's already got his Ruden's Hurricane is kind of nuts. Like, he obviously would like the Infinity Edge, but in these fights, especially towards like these close quarter brawls that happen in the jungle, he's going to get a lot of damage off. And you do have to be very careful as JDG here. when you've got like JJ and Viper with the right guns, this Aphelios can rip through that Baron. So just have to pay attention to the vision control that EDG are trying to establish in JDG's topside jungle, and making sure Lumao and Kanavi are keeping it pushed back.
And I think it's important to note the item choice on the Aphelios too, that Gale Force in this comp, where Azir's trying to get in, you know, you've got Zoom on Nocturne, Diana as well, the dive potential is definitely there. Viper having a bit more mobility, plus the EDG space creation tools you talked about a little bit earlier, Dagda, is going to be pivotal to seeing how Viper plays out the fights. Lethal tempo as well, the attack speed is going to go absolutely great. So I think at this point as well, when we get towards that next minute, we will be talking a little bit about matching comparison items. Waves just being cleared, Dragon being watered out for now. It is EDG who hold the priority, but Zoom making an effort up to kind of moving back bot to clear away some of the vision and make sure JDG are on equal footing.
Again, though, like JDG, their pick potential is pretty high, right? When you look towards people like Zoom, who can try and facilitate off in the side lane, trying to play around into multiple different angles, you do have to be very careful. And Ox earlier on brought up that very good point that, you know, lights go out for Nocturne. It's very hard to try and TP in as EDG is...
Cheeky Scout, you go. Wow. That's a lot of damage already. Mortal Reminder was finished off, Morella Nomicon, to correct myself. And Scout with that means that Yagal will definitely have to TP in.
Yeah, you've got Scout though, who honestly I think he just keeps pushing topside for a little bit. Not a huge amount of wards that he can TP to. There is one at the back of JDG here, just off of Dragon. We can't quite see it on the screen there, but Scout actually just walks down, goes onto his TP, and EDG, they've got mid lane control. They could just try and break the tier 2. It looks like they want to fight.
And look at the defensive vision. They will spot out Scout on this flank. He's going to Distortion Eva over the wall, but Dragon goes down. JDG uncontested. A True Shot Barrage nails through to Viper, and there's the paranoia. There's Viper's Gale Force coming in handy, though. He's got the space. Now can he create the fight? The ulti whips completely through, and Scout's on the back end. Yagal's ulti creates their own kind of space. Flandre absorbing the damage, but EDG now 4 versus 3. Lumao not long for the world. Into the back line. The face breaker from Flandre. He'll die, but you know the fight has been given over to EDG.
And this is what we talked about, Hysterics. EDG are the best team fighting team we have in the LPL. And you can see it there. As they try to aggress forward, Scout is threatening the flank. And JDG crumble under the pressure. Dragon goes their way, but Baron is going to EDG.
I love that even though Scout got bursted out, he got focused. He survives and he comes back, heals up, and it doesn't matter. We'll look again because this was drawn out on so many different angles.
This was gorgeous from Flandre, right? Look at his positioning here. He catches Kanavi trying to go for the follow-up engage, manages to get Zoom as well. Viper's already bought all that space, and while you've got multiple members trying to deal with Scout, who's threatening the back line, you've got Viper, who's working his way through JDG's front line. Scout escapes. Yagal's in a horrific spot because he tries to go too far forward in the Azir to follow up on JDG's engage, and from that, EDG, they just right the ship. You've got Viper perfectly fine. He's got 4 tanky members in front of him that he doesn't have to worry about.
Flandre is so hot right now. That was sick. That was such a good fight from him. Multiple 2-man face breakers. And he dies in the end, but, you know, all gods must die. EDG's top laner setting an example in the fight. Everything gets cleaned up, and Viper as well survives to pick up a couple more kills. 3-0 here on this Aphelios. Infinity Edge on the way. 24 minutes into this game, and the kills may not be hugely in favor of Edward Gaming, but it's almost a 5k gold lead at 24 minutes. Baron is now there for a team that does have the LeBlanc, that has the set who can control some of these sides, and EDG already pushing in with vision, choking out JDG, and trying to put a closer on this game 1.
And the thing is, like, EDG are playing these side waves really well, right? Flandre, oh, hang on, gonna hold on, because Scout actually might get cut out here.
Okay, can he survive? He is a LeBlanc, moon falls short, TP's coming in. Yagal, the DPS, paranoia there as well. Solar Flare dodged away from, chasing the LeBlanc. Yagal missing his ulti. Flandre trying to buy time. Scout will go down, but EDG, no JDG have no tools. The Sun Turret's up, but the death sentence perfectly timed. JJ on the front lines, reporting for duty, sir. Zoom as well. Next on the menu, boys. Viper hitting away. Face breaker again. This team is better than a bottle of wine.
This team is looking unbelievable. A fine vintage that has been cracking open JDG this entire game long. Now they will crack open the base and let the aroma of victory fill the room.
I tell you what, Dagda, we're going to have to store and lock this in the cellar. This is too good to open right now. EDG in game number 1. It's gotten to the point of 25 minutes where it's been made to look easy. Scout is such a slippery little snake. I want to watch this replay because everyone wanted a piece of the candy.
I just want to point out Flandre here once again. Scout sidesteps Kanavi's ultimate, we call it a sidestep, and then manages to escape. But watch, as Lumao goes for the engage on towards Scout, boom, face breaker, stops Lumao's follow-up, which buys more space for Scout, which is why JDG overextend. They commit flashes, they commit everything to make this play happen, which means when EDG show up in force, they're spread out, they can be separated, and they can be worked through by the rest of EDG. That was so well played by Flandre. He is MVP this game. This guy's been insane.
Yeah, he really has. That's a sick interaction. I love that we got to slow that down as well. Very few times have we seen that interaction in the LPL. I will also take away some props from JDG. Everything on the table missed as well. And feels really bad watching that back, seeing how JDG had a lot of tools to use, one by one to engage, and it started with the sad moonfall. But hey, this game's about EDG. We'll focus on them as Scout is now full Hitman mode. You don't know where he's coming from, but you know he's there. EDG, bottom lane turret goes down as well. Scout through mid. Top lane minions are building up with the broken inhibitor. It's only a matter of time before EDG take another part of this base.
I think EDG right now, though, are going to play it safe, right? EDG, they're not a team that just snowballs completely out of control. They're very by the book, right? So we've got one in here, our tower cracked open. They will threaten here, and then they'll back away, I assume, for this dragon that's up. Although, I could be wrong here. EDG looking to maybe get a little bit frisky in this game, number 1.
You feel confident when you have a stopwatch on the Aphelios, 3 items as well. JDG grouping up. Zoom's ulti's back up and available. Yagal's too. If they want to hope in surviving this game, they have to hit their abilities this time around. But EDG not giving them a margin. Inhibitor number 2 drops. 3rd as well up the menu. But EDG might just wait for this dragon, wait for the next Baron to come through to make it an easy close.
Yeah, and the big thing here for EDG as well is the item breakpoints. You got that Infinity Edge that we talk about a lot for Aphelios. So Viper, even though he was already crazy far ahead, now he's going to look even better in these team fights. Scout as well, you can see he's finished his Luden's Tempest, he's got the Morellonomicon, he's able to do a hell of a lot of damage as well. Plus double Sterix for the top laners, like EDG in a phenomenal spot, whereas when you look across at Kanavi, yes, he's got that Sonya's Hourglass, but he's a bit behind on the curve. Same when you look at Yagao, like his individual Qs are going to be doing a lot of damage, his ult will be doing a lot of damage, but his actual auto attacks from these soldiers are going to be pretty lackluster, obviously we're not having that Nashor's too.
Yeah, it's something that, you know, if it is coming 3rd or 4th item, we're not going to see it anyway with the way the game's going. EDG moving back onto the map, up towards this Baron side. Navi, if he face checks, will die. Flandre as well, strike breaker there. Remember, it's 11.12, so he's got the distance. Navi lucky to get out thanks to the minion wave. The Scout on the other side of the play as well, looking for an advantage. He might even find a Nocturne. Yes, he will. Zoom was backing. Spell Shield not going to come through now. There's the burst. I think Zoom knows he's dead. And Scout with a nice pick. That'll just open up even more for EDG.
You get one chance there, Zoom. You got to spell shield that initial chain. Otherwise, the CC lock is too strong. And now JDG, 4 versus 5 in their own base.
Scout. They're angry at this LeBlanc. They do get him, though, so that's great. As Flandre now sets up on top of Yagal. Emperor's Divide will get them gliding. EDG won't walk into the base. Baron is up and available, so it is a good pick for JDG, but remember that there is so much damage on the Baron, they're going to require another miracle.
Yeah, 15 seconds still on Zoom as well, so might be a bit risky for EDG to start this, although you do have a hell of a lot of damage from Aphelios, but not quite the right guns. So 5 seconds, EDG may not be as confident on this one, but look, JDG, they're not going to try and threaten, so instead EDG should be able to pick up this Baron and now start their onslaught on that last remaining turret for JDG in the bottom side.
Shandon was just picked up. There is an Ezreal on the other team, so normally you might wait for your mid laner, but Smite's going to come through and Scout's not going to be picking up the Baron, but the other 4 happily take it. As All right, well, the game's going to go a little bit longer than expected, Dagda, but still the same result, it feels like. And for JDG, it's just kind of been a running tale, right? You know, we saw through that top lane fight with everything going wrong that JDG are not the same skirmishing, smart, team-fighting team that we remember them. Oh, at one point, we're even calling them like the most LCK-like team because JDG were quite methodical in their gameplay, but this game was very scattered.
It is kind of true. They are kind of LCK in that they lose to the top LPL teams, right?
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I'm sure any LCK fans tuning in are going to get very bad about that. Loss of hair and all that. EDG looking for the end, though. Let's close this one up before we get anyone else angry. JDG just want one pick. Anyone will do, but it's going to be hard to defend.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not much range on EDG's side, but once you start to stack and rack these cannons, you should be in good spot. Scout as well, threat in the mid lane. I'd actually wouldn't be surprised to see Scout peel off, maybe try and get that top inhibitor as well, but EDG, with that minion wave now moving in, are going to just look to put full pressure on towards this bot side as the next minion wave conga lines its way in.
I just love Scout sitting here, even without a Baron buff, like always a threat of looking for the dive on someone like Yagao. Pops on in, Yagao's committed as well. Into the backline, Paranoia follows up, and Zoom's actually destroyed. Flandre pulls him back in and dunked on down as Kanavi. EDG have taken hardly any damage. Viper, Mako half health, but now this game truly will get it to its natural conclusion.
Yeah, Viper played that incredibly well. When he got all that peel, you could see Kanavi flashed in, still had the stopwatch, and now EDG going for more. Lumao,
yeah, he's dead. Rabadum comes through. He's only buying time. Yagao and Loken in the back line don't want a piece of it, even though they have flash. Ulti here for Yagao. It's lights out for sure. Yagao sends the ulti, does a good job, but it's way too late for that. EDG in game number one picked them apart and really showed JDG who the potential best team in the LPL right now is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of Yagao just helping EDG jump for joy as they close out on that Nexus. It really was a dominant performance from EDG.